Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. This episode, I'll be talking about how Dallas County axes their plan to prioritize vaccinating communities of color after state threatens to slash their allocation. John Cox, 2018 Newsom opponent, says he'll run again if recall effort succeeds. Chicago schools postpone in-person classes over COVID-19 safety plan. And finally, Biden coronavirus advisor says we have to call an audible. So let's get started. Faced with a threat that the state might slash its vaccine allocation, Dallas officials on Wednesday reversed course on a plan that would have prioritized doses for people living in the county's most vulnerable zip codes, primarily in communities of color. In Texas and across the nation, communities of color have been the hardest hit by the novel coronavirus, and health officials are grappling with how to ensure equity in the vaccine rollout. In Dallas, as in other major Texas cities, distribution sites are more commonly located in white neighborhoods, and early data showed the North Texas County had distributed most of its shots to residents of whiter, wealthier neighborhoods. Dallas leaders tried to prioritize any residents who meet the state's criteria for vaccination and live in one of the 11 zip codes, which are all completely or partially south of Interstate 30, a dividing line that splits the county along racial and socioeconomic lines, the Dallas Morning News reported this week. But Texas health officials pushed back on the proposal, warning that it was not acceptable to the Department of State Health Services. While we ask hub providers to ensure vaccine reaches the hardest hit areas and populations, solely vaccinating people who live in those areas is not in line with the agreement to be a hub provider. If Dallas County is unable to meet these expectations, we'll be forced to reduce the weekly vaccine allocation to Dallas County Health and Human Services and no longer consider it a hub provider. Garcia asked Dallas for an update on the vaccination plan by Thursday morning. Her letter came after Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins wrote to state officials asking whether the county's plan was permissible. The county government is responsible for just 10% of the vaccines distributed in Dallas County. Most of the vaccines are actually distributed by hospitals and other health-related institutions. In an emergency meeting Wednesday evening, Jenkins successfully encouraged commissioners to reverse the plan. They could broach the issue again, he said, but for now, they should axe the prioritization plan to ensure the county gets its next shipment from the state. In a spirited and at times tense meeting, Commissioner J J Koch, who proposed the order in the first place, pushed to maintain language prioritizing the vulnerable zip codes and accused Jenkins of being disingenuous. Koch proposed tweaks to the order to meet the state's specifications while still prioritizing the hard-hit communities. I'm not willing to risk the vaccine for tens of thousands of people over the next few weeks because you guess that your order is good enough to satisfy the state. And the guy makes a lot of sense, right? He's saying you're hoping that the verbiage you're using will satisfy the requirements of the states, but we're not 100% sure. The state is already pushing back. They're saying we're walking a tight line. Do we want to risk having thousands of vaccines? Do we want to risk losing all those doses for the citizens of our county? And if we're unable to do so, we're going to lose our allotment because of your ambition. And is it worth it? I'm certain that the order will be acceptable to state official, Coach shot back. You got us in the situation we're in tonight. The more you keep doing this, the more you're hurting people of Dallas County. Ultimately, the court voted to rescind the order, but agreed to meet again later this week to design a vaccination plan that will be transparent and accountable, as Coach put it. We're all trying to get to the same place, Jenkins said, trying to pacify the group. No, we're not, objected Commissioner John Wiley Price, who represents South Dallas and raised concerns throughout the meeting that the county was not doing enough to serve vulnerable communities. Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson declined to comment on the debate. All hub providers agreed to vaccinate people without regard to where they live, including from surrounding counties. And we expect them to do that. That doesn't prevent them from focusing some efforts on specific populations, says DSHS spokesman Chris Van Duysen. In fact, we directed them to ensure they are vaccinating people in the hardest hit areas and populations, but they cannot do that to the exclusion of literally everyone else. So what they're doing is we only want to vaccinate this area and no one else. And that's discriminatory. And that's what they're saying. So if they want to have their clinics in that area and then accept people from other parts of town, that's one thing. But if you say, we're going to exclude people from other parts of town. We're not even going to let you get a shot if you're the wrong color. We're only serving this community, people that look a certain way. Then, of course, that's discriminatory. And that's basically where they're getting at. So I'm going to be interested in how this develops. And it is contentious. So like I said in a earlier video, you can have all these vaccine stations, but if the community doesn't trust the vaccine, then you can't force it upon them unless they want to take it. So therein lies the problem. You have a president and a vice president and the mainstream news bashing on the vaccine for 9 months, saying it was impossible, saying it was going to be a pipe dream, saying that there was no chance in hell it was going to happen, saying that it would be unsafe, that Trump would basically force the CDC to break the rules to produce a vaccine by election time. So it's extremely disingenuous to now expect everybody to happily take a vaccine that you've been telling them that would be extremely dangerous, or you shouldn't trust anything coming from Trump, blah, 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 because it's been pushed for a year. You can't have it both ways, friends. You got to pick a side. Pick a story and stick with it. Now we have to work on repairing. We have to work on building public confidence in the vaccine. You had so many people for nearly a year saying it was going to be dangerous. I wouldn't take it unless someone told me that I should take it, unless a panel of doctors said it was safe. And now, as soon as Biden won the election, they said, boom, we have a vaccine. Now it's time for everybody to get vaccinated. No questions. And if you ask a question about it, you're automatically a right-winger, anti-vaxxer, and you don't trust the science. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, guy, pump the brakes. I'm pretty sure you spent the past 9 months bashing this vaccine. I'm not bashing all vaccines. I'm bashing this vaccine. This vaccine concerns me. Every other vaccine has taken years to develop. This one has taken months to develop. So excuse me for wanting to ask a couple of questions. Why were you so critical of it up until the point to where you are no longer critical of it? Why are you now wanting to force everybody to take it? Why do you want to make everybody obligated to take it? So it's something to be asked, especially since the vaccine doesn't keep you from catching COVID or transmitting COVID. It keeps you from basically developing severe symptoms. From everything I've read, it doesn't keep you from catching it. It doesn't keep you from spreading it. That's why you have to still socially distance, still wear a mask, still do all the things you still have to do, but it just keeps you from getting really sick. So it's questionable. Like, why? And until those questions are answered, you're going to see hesitation from the minority community who inherently doesn't trust government medicine, because they had been taken advantage of for so long in this country's history. You had the Tuskegee experiments. You have just minorities being treated very extremely poorly for the past 100 years through the healthcare system, through scientific experimentation and all that stuff. So until their trust is earned, don't expect people to just, what is it? You can take a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? So don't expect them to just take the vaccine because the vaccine is there. You have to teach them that the vaccine is safe. You have to tell them why it's safe. You have to tell them that all the things that I guess that you're currently not telling people, because now you're just saying that if you don't take the vaccine, you're anti-vaxxer, and half the country doesn't want to take it. So you need to basically warm up that half of the country to be more willing, more acceptable to taking that vaccine. Let's jump over to the Daily Wire. John Koch, 2018 Newsom opponent, says he'll run again if recall effort succeeds. Former California gubernatorial candidate John Koch said he would run for governor again should the growing effort to oust Governor Gavin Newsom through the recall vote achieve enough signatures to get on the ballot. The state is in crisis, Koch told the Inside California Politics in an interview when asked why he's committed to throwing his hat in the ring if the recall effort succeeds. It's kind of the things I talked about during the run in 2018. Housing and homelessness are worse, but now we have the pandemic and the mismanagement that's gone on during the whole thing. We've got small businesses that have been crushed while Costco and Home Depot and big chains are doing just fine. We are also having our kids be kept out of school and being kept out of activities. Cox said the last straw, however, has been California's vaccine distribution system. According to Bloomberg News, California has only administered 60.6% COVID-19 vaccines doses. They've been provided by federal government. Far more successful states such as West Virginia have administered 86% of the vaccine doses they have been provided. There are seniors all across the state that are facing literally life and death if they don't get this vaccine, said Cox, who emphasized that California's 6,000 pharmacies should have been leveraged for COVID-19 vaccine distribution. He added, it's just one of a series of just instances of mismanagement the politicians being led by Gavin Newsom have visited upon us, and it's got to change. I'm just not sitting back and watching this. I'm going to actually do something about it. Look, I had the energy crisis and a recession, said Davis. He has a pandemic we haven't seen in 100 years. He has the fallout from the pandemic, racial injustice, wildfires, and I think I'm leaving something out. But no living governor has had to experience as many crises as his, says former California Governor Gray Davis. He's totally transparent. He explains why he's doing what he's doing. He tells you whether it's accomplished, and if not, why not. And I think there's an endearing quality about that, or about him, that voters like. And I call BS. He said he was going to be transparent about the COVID numbers, and he suppressed that information in December when he locked down again. And you had experts say, please just show us the information so we can figure out what exactly is going on. And he wasn't being transparent. He said, hey, don't go eat inside. And guess what? People said, hey, Governor Newsom was eating inside at the French Laundry. And he said, I wasn't eating outside. I was eating outside. It was outdoor dining. I don't know what you were talking about. And then photos arisen. And then he said, oh, well, I'm so sorry. Can you please forgive me? I'm sorry that you caught me breaking my own rules. I'm sorry that I broke the rules that I imposed upon you and just basically destroyed your business, destroyed your livelihood, destroyed your relationships, destroyed your lives. But just remember, I'm still doing extremely well, and I'm looking as handsome as ever. And until then perhaps you should sit down, shut up, you peasant, and I'll continue driving the state of California off the proverbial cliff. Jumping over to Reuters, Chicago Public Schools on Monday delayed the resumption of in-person classes for thousands of elementary and middle school students by at least a day as the district and teachers failed to reach an agreement on a COVID-19 safety plan. The third largest school district in the United States told the parents of 62,000 elementary and middle school students who opted to begin taking some of their classes in their schools on Monday to stay home, saying it hopes to resume in-person classes for those students on Tuesday. The parents of 5,200 pre-K and special education students who began taking in-person classes on January 11th were also told to keep their children home on Monday. The decision to postpone in-person classes comes after the Chicago Public Schools, CPS, and the Chicago Teachers Union, representing 28,000 public school educators, failed to reach an agreement despite months of negotiations. The two sides have been at odds on teachers' demands for stronger safety protocols to prevent the spread of the virus inside the classroom. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said on Sunday that the two sides have agreed on health and safety protocols, ventilation in schools, contact tracing, and creating health committees. We need a renewed sense of urgency on the part of CTU leadership, she said, noting that the talks stalled on Sunday. We are disappointed the way this has gone, said CTU President Jesse Sharkey during a news press conference late on Sunday, vowing to continue to negotiate. It's been a frustrating process. We are at the phase of negotiations where we have some really hard issues left. Tensions between the two sides grew over the last week after rank and file members voted 71% in favor of staying remote and not going back into their schools until their needs are met. So that's bananas. People need to go to work. People need to send their kids to school. Students need to go to school. Kids need to socialize. Kids need to play with their friends. We are human creatures. We should not be communicating strictly through the interwebs. We need to have physical relationships. We need to talk to individuals. And transmission between students and teachers are not that great. It'll be more likely that teachers give coronavirus to fellow teachers than a student gives it to a teacher or a teacher gives it to the students. And that's been well documented in scientific research. And it's appalling that these teachers' unions have so much power to basically just lock up an entire city, ruin people's lives, ruin people's plans. If people were going back to work and finally saying, hey, boss, I can finally come back to work. And then the teachers' union the day before says, oh, wait, pump the brakes. You're not actually going to work, friend, because they're not doing what we want them to do. That's bananas. And of course, you're going to have 71%. Why are they going to want to get dressed? Why are they going to want to drive to school? It's wintertime. It's snowing, right? Why would you want to deal with all that stuff? You don't have to deal with all those sticky, noisy kids. They're all on the computer. You can just mute somebody who's being noisy. It's crazy. Of course, you're going to want to take the lazy way out. You don't have to do a commute. Your work is going to be easier if it's all online. It's all digital. It's so much easier to grade. I'm sure it's 71% in favor of it because those 71% realize that their life is easier when everything is online. And before I get to the last story, why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you'd like to contribute to the show, please go to notcensoredyet.com/donate. You'll find links available where you can contribute to the show. Every little bit helps as we're still growing and want to provide more consistent quality content. So let's jump over to the Hill. Biden coronavirus advisor says we have to call an audible on vaccine distribution. Michael Osterholm, a Biden transition team advisor on coronavirus, said on Sunday the country has to call an audible in regards to COVID-19 vaccine distribution, warning a new surge caused by the UK variant is likely to occur in the next few months. Osterholm appeared on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday to discuss the state of coronavirus vaccines in the U.S. and their distribution with host Chuck Todd. The news host asked if it was now the time to abandon the current distribution plan in favor of a new one. Well, first of all, let me just say that I've been one of those saying that we need to make sure that we have both a first and second doses of that and follow the FDA approval process. But let me say right now, we do have to call an audible. Osterholm, an epidemiologist, said the new variant from the UK would cause a surge in the next 6 to 14 weeks. I'm old enough to remember when Dr. Fauci said we don't need to limit travel between the UK and the United States. When is Dr. Fauci going to be held accountable for his incompetency? Again, it's not xenophobia to say, hey, you guys have a new strain of coronavirus. We're going to limit travel between our countries so we can figure out what's going on. It's called being prudent. There is a pandemic going on. And if there's new strains that are more contagious, we need to restrict travel. We need to slow down the spread between the countries because now 6 to 14 weeks, it could just be a raging wildfire of coronavirus throughout the country. And if we see that problem, which my 45 years in the trenches tell us we will, we are going to see something like we have not seen yet in this country. He stated it will still be important that people receive the 2 doses required of the current vaccines available in the U.S., but said as many seniors as possible should receive at least 1 dose before the surge hits. Todd asked Osterholm if he was concerned about the homegrown strains popping up in the near future. I'm very concerned about that, but I think the good news is that I actually see action being taken with this new administration, unlike we've seen before. I call shenanigans. There was 1 million vaccine doses being given the day of Joe Biden's inauguration. Joe Biden had nothing to do with that. That was all Donald Trump friends. So you can't say Donald Trump didn't do anything. Again, there was a learning pains, learning struggles. He had to figure out what was going on. So throw the guy a freaking bone. And as these new COVID variations and the vaccine is less effective against these and they need to produce new vaccines, what excuses are they going to give Joe Biden? I'm going to be interested to see, and I'm going to document it and I'll report on it and basically say, hey, here is then and this is now, because this is BS. Because when this was brand new, nobody knew what it was. China was lying about it. World Health Organization was lying about it. The World Health Organization wasn't looking into it. The World Health Organization was giving out the wrong information. And you're blaming Trump about it? No, that is unacceptable. Yes, some blame lies with him, but some blame lies with everybody. All the world leaders, all these organizations around the world, everybody has a share in the blame. So to say that, oh, well, Trump did nothing and Biden's actually doing something, oh, that's quite refreshing. No, that's BS. And so there really are efforts right now to, in fact, get us that kind of surveillance system in place as quickly as possible. And frankly, we need the Congress to pass the President's Relief Act because that'll help us also do more of this kind of work. That's interesting. I'd be interested to see how that would actually work out, but I guess it is what it is. There is a lot of funding for, there is a lot of pork in that bill. There's a lot of stuff in that bill that they're not talking about, which is quite scary. They want to spend trillions of dollars that we don't have on stuff that we don't know exactly what they want to spend it on. And that's quite concerning, especially since inflation's actually a thing. Unless we go to war, the inflation's going to hit, the value of the dollar is going to be less, and people are not going to have a good time. So that's going to be it for now, friends. Unless the world raptures and I need to report on it, that's going to be it for today. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Have a good one. Bye.